For more than a decade, a South Texas militia has been working closely with the U.S. Border Patrol to stop undocumented immigrants crossing through Texas ranch lands.
It's a collaboration the volunteer group calls necessary, although the Border Patrol avoids any endorsement. During their latest operation, our border team embedded with the military to see firsthand how they help protect Texas.
About 5 miles north of the nearest Border Patrol checkpoint in Falfurrias, Texas, and 75 miles north of the border with Mexico lies the Vickers Ranch.
Dr. Vickers.
A 1,000-acre property home to Dr. Mike Vickers, a local veterinarian.
The biggest group I think we had was 9.
Dr. Vickers is one of the original founders of the Texas Border Volunteers, which broke off from the Texas Minutemen militia about 13 years ago. The TBV is comprised of more than 300 citizen soldiers. Roughly about 24 members meet once or twice a month at the Vickers Ranch to conduct what they call border watches.
You can get a look at the plan for tonight.
Rocky, as he's known, runs logistics from the base.
Anybody out there want to give base a radio check?
He's the one who calls Border Patrol after units on the ground have confirmed a head count of spotted immigrants in a certain area.
So how many posts do you guys actually have?
I have never counted them, but there are easily 60. We have agreements with the individual ranchers to go onto their private property. We're not cops. We don't capture anybody. We don't arrest anybody. We arrange for their capture.
These armed volunteers organized in response to what they consider a lack of federal resources to stem the flow of undocumented immigrants through their ranch lands.
Why would you trade, say, being with your families, or maybe if you have a hobby back home, why would you trade that for being out here helping out the Border Patrol?
We're providing a service, and we trying to make this country a little better.
I felt it my duty to come and do what I can to stop the illegal stuff.
Vinny, Tom, Don, and their newest member, Patty, have come together from various parts of the country, sharing a similar sentiment on immigration. Don flew in from California the previous night. It had been over a year since he last attended a group muster.
It seems the United States is the only country where the worldview is that we're supposed to take anybody and anybody who wants to violate our borders and come here.
We're just to the point where we need the volunteers because there just weren't enough Border Patrol.
In 2005, when the group formed, Customs and Border Protection had roughly 10,000 agents. In 2017, the number was closer to 20,000. Meanwhile, immigrant apprehensions by Border Patrol have decreased considerably since the George W. Bush era. During the same period, anti-government patriot groups grew from 132 to 689 in 2017, 273 of which were identified as militias by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Are you ready? Let's do it. The muster post assignments.
Since their inception, the Texas Border Volunteers say they filtered out all anti-government and radical elements from their organization.
North of the checkpoint is pickup zone, south of the checkpoint is drop-off zone. We're going to park on a known trail and watch it. Here's where these guys crossed the last time. Border Patrol do not have the resources to come out here and watch these trails. And that's what we do. We fill a void that they can't fill.
What's going on, Doc?
How you doing?
How you been?
This has evolved over all these years of working hand in hand with these Border Patrol agents.
Y'all gonna be out here for the next couple of days, they said?
We could call it quits tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
But we'll be back probably in a couple of weeks. So anyway.
Chief, just north of here, there's a known border militia that
we tried asking Acting Border Patrol Chief Carla Provost if collaborating with militia groups helps or hinders the agency's mission.
That works and operates. Oh, okay.
But we were cut off and told it was too local of a question for her to respond to. Repeated requests to clarify this have gone unanswered.
Why do you think
publicly the Border Patrol doesn't necessarily endorse a group like yours.
They don't want any copycats. They don't want some other group to show up out there and say, hey, we're Border Patrol, we're Texas Border Volunteer 2, you know, or we're Texas Border Volunteer 3, you know. No.
This is an extremely large and dense area, so it's really a cat and mouse game.
For the TBV to have any advantage, they carry gadgets they say are better than what Border Patrol agents are equipped with, including night and heat vision scopes they buy with the money they raise. With 6 teams out scouting from their designated posts, the only movement they can see on this night are cattle and a drift of hogs crossing the road.
So far, the last few hours we spent out here tonight, we have not been able to come across anyone. However, they say that just a couple of weeks ago, they found 8 people in this exact location.
We have established a terrific relationship, not only with the landowners, but with Border Patrol. And if we don't toe the line and do what we're supposed to do, welcome mat by both the landowners and the Border Patrol will be pulled very quickly.
After none of the teams report activity, the volunteers regroup and head back to base. Even though the night proved not to be fruitful for these men and women, they vow to continue their operations as long as illegal immigration remains an issue. In Falfurrias, near the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain reporting.
Bill. Teens kicking down doors, rounding up bad guys, even firing guns on a mission.
It may sound a lot like a video game, but it's not.
Eyewitness News border reporter Oscar Margain and photojournalist Jose Sanchez were embedded with a team of teenagers training to become border agents.
Door on my side.
In Brownsville, Texas,
Locked.
at an undisclosed Border Patrol facility,
Door on my side. Locked.
these teens
Door on my side.
are opening doors,
Open. Pulse on me.
busting their way into a future in law enforcement.
Oh my God, there's a shooter!
Training for the day they put their lives on the line.
Ready? Go. Hallway, my side. Go.
As flawless as this active shooter drill may look, not everything these young explorers do
25, 25. Bang, bang, bang!
is perfect.
Cover, cover, cover! There's a man in custody. Seems dead.
As Border Patrol agent and lead advisor Antonio Valdez points out,
So you guys did good. The only thing, ma'am, we don't use the terminology dead, right? We're not doctors.
Valdez reminds them that every call they make has consequences.
I want them to build that self-confidence, leadership skills. I want them to break out of that shell.
Mistakes need correcting if they're ever to become federal agents.
You see the sign, you can tell how old it is, depending on your experience as a Border Patrol agent.
Just 11 months ago, Hermilo Rubio was an explorer, graduating from the program and diving straight into the Border Patrol Academy. Rubio is now a field agent, stopping drugs and people from coming through the border illegally.
From the exercises to the handcuff techniques, officer presence, everything was familiar, except over here was the actual job.
These explorers don't gather around campfires to sing Kumbaya. They have a strict weekly schedule, go through rigorous physical exercises and hands-on activities, from fingerprint forensics to actual firearm shooting. Nothing short of basic military training. Nearly 500,000 teens and children were enrolled in one of 6,700 Explorer posts and clubs in 2016, though not all are law enforcement focused or as intense.
All occupants in the vehicle, let me see your hands.
This Border Patrol Explorers post in Brownsville, created in 2001,
Do it now. When you get out, you're gonna face away from me.
is recognized by the agency as one of their best in competition.
Sometimes you can be holding the microphone and a gun, so both of your hands get tired, so your lots going through your mind.
Pick up your calling. Stop. We try to make it as realistic as possible, so it does get adrenaline pumping. It does give us like a wow, like this does really happen, and people really have to train for this.
Anaí Figueroa and Joshua Loya are at different stages in the program. Loya is in high school while Figueroa is about to finish college. Both have different interests, but ever since signing up with the Explorers, they've considered a career in law enforcement.
Everybody gets to experience what it feels like being a team leader. They get to realize what it feels like in the real world to get all that pressure, and so when they go out in the future career, we know what to do.
The program has become a recruiting tool for police departments and federal agencies all over the country looking for committed individuals.
Getting the keys.
Commitment, these explorers say, help build the character
Vehicle cleared!
that sets them apart.
We also want people to see the other side of law enforcement. We want them to know that law enforcement's here to help them.
In Brownsville, near the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain reporting.
When the sun goes down and most of the country sleeps, federal agents work around the clock to stop the flow of illegal drugs and people at the U.S.-Mexico border. It's an effort that doesn't always prove successful, especially under the cover of darkness. Border correspondent Oscar Margain reports.
As the sun sets on the ranch lands of Falfurrias, Texas, night falls with it, leaving few sources of light. Tonight, we ride with the U.S. Border Patrol along one of the most trafficked areas by human smugglers and undocumented immigrants along the southern border, seeking to make it past the Falfurrias checkpoint undetected.
Hey, how you doing?
The inspection station is located 68 miles north of the Texas-Mexico boundary in the middle of rural Brooks County. It's the last line of Border Patrol defense undocumented immigrants try to bypass before they fall through the cracks of our immigration system.
So in order to go through the checkpoint, either you're going to take your dope and narcotics or your people through the checkpoint, or you're going to drop them off south of the checkpoint and have them go around the checkpoint to get north.
Coyotes do this in broad daylight.
I'm going to pull over and just kill the lights to show you how dark it actually gets out here.
And under the cover of darkness, says Border Patrol agent Pedro Cantu. Cantu has worked these 1,500 square miles of private ranch land for several years, tracking footprints with the aid of night vision technology.
So we got 1 here, 2, 3.
Border Patrol calls the process sign cutting. Smugglers are aware of this process. That's why they try to erase their tracks to throw agents off their path.
Their techniques are always evolving, always growing. They're trying to outsmart us. So it's a cat and mouse game on what they can do to not get caught.
Like chasing a ghost, agents begin to follow the trail of one person's shoe print.
I got a print going westbound up here, chevrons on top of the boot.
The collegiate terrain can make it difficult for agents to decipher how long ago the person traversed through this property.
Where did you come from? Where did you go?
And therefore are unable to find him. Fewer and smaller fragmented groups of immigrants complicate the search, a trend that reflects this year's overall decline in illegal border crossings.
You know, if you want to continue walking the Caliche West,
those are the ones caught. The question is, how many sneak through?
The 2 parcels that we own are about 5,000 acres.
Javier Perez owns La Copa Ranch, located a few miles south of the Falfurrias checkpoint.
People cross here all the time. You know, it's just every day.
Other than this hot spring in La Copa Ranch, finding a source of water or shelter is nearly impossible around here, reducing the chances of survival if left stranded.
I mean, you can get disoriented very quickly. You know, you can get lost, you can get dehydrated, you could be, you know, running around in circles and not knowing where you're going.
Walking these border ranch lands can be deadly. According to the South Texas Human Rights Center, 41 human remains have been found this year alone in just this section of the border, 61 in all of 2016. 130 deaths were recorded by Border Patrol last year in the entire Rio Grande Valley sector.
Just stand by whenever you're ready.
It's now the break of dawn. A Border Patrol camera sensor is activated.
as soon as it gets daylight, they can see, okay, we need to get in the brush and get some cover.
And agents pick up a trail of a larger group.
So you can see how it's matted down, so easily 10 plus, maybe 15.
The fresh prints prompt Cantu to move a couple miles north to cut ahead of the pack. Time is of essence. The immigrants have already walked around the checkpoint.
Yeah, they're walking right here.
Border Patrol ATVs are deployed, and more units try closing in on the group, but it's too late.
Another one bites the dust.
The group of immigrants made it far enough to be picked up by human traffickers and got away.
Lost it.
Coyotes have made about $500 per immigrant smuggled.
I mean, we win some, we lose some, but all we got to do is keep trying, right?
For Cantu and the rest of the agents, it's back to the starting line. hoping next time their efforts will pay off.
It's the challenges of manpower, infrastructure, and technology that we're lacking. As an agent, we don't really get discouraged on it. We just got to continue doing what we do and continue our job every day.
Illegal crossings come in waves and trends. It may rise and fall like day and night and repeat itself again and again. In Falfurrias, near the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain reporting.